Before being one of the highest paid athletes in the world, Conor McGregor was a plumber picking up welfare checks before his fights. Conor lives quite an extravagant life now, but growing up he was bullied and that led him to start fighting. You see, he was a plumber making very little money and he wanted to be rich one day. So he picked up fighting and he had his first amateur fight in the Ring of Truth promotion in Dublin, Ireland. Conor did amazing in this fight and he won by TKO in the first round. He fought some more amateur fights and then he started his professional career outside of the UFC. At this time, he was still making little to no money from his fights and he had to pick up welfare checks. In an interview with VIP magazine, Conor said, "I knew I didn't want to be like the other guys on the building site who were getting up early in the morning and working late at night. Labor work, hard hat work, that wasn't for me." So he put all of his chips in the center on fighting and it worked out. And on April 6, 2013, Conor McGregor had his first UFC fight against Marcus Brimage. McGregor ended up making $76,000 on this fight, $8,000 to show up, $8,000 to win, and $60,000 for the knockout of the night bonus. And that's where this iconic clip came from.
60 G's, baby!
He would have another fight 4 months later against one of the best UFC fighters we have ever seen, Max Holloway. This time around, Conor only made $24,000. He made $12,000 to show and $12,000 to win. He didn't get any performance bonuses. However, this was an amazing fight and it showed that Conor could go into the later rounds and still do well. And at this point, Conor was 14-2 and he was on a hot streak. His next fight was against Diego Brandao and he made $82,000, $16,000 to show, $16,000 to win, and then $50,000 for a performance bonus. So at this point, Conor's stock was rising and he was making more than $100,000 a year. Conor ended up getting a new contract and he would face off against his bitter rival Dustin Poirier next. This fight had a ton of trash talk leading up to it.
And when Dustin's head clatters off that canvas, they'll realize pretty soon.
So there was a lot of hype and Conor McGregor made a bag off of this fight. It was one of Conor's best performances of his career and he ended up making $200,000, $75,000 to show, $75,000 to win, and a $50,000 performance bonus. At this point, Conor started to pick the round that he was going to knock opponents out in, and people were eating it up.
You can call me Mystic Mac because I predict these things.
His next fight would be his first headliner against Dennis Seaver, and he showed off his ground and pound and how he was one of the best fighters in the UFC at this point. He ended up making $220,000 from this fight, $85,000 to show, $85,000 to win, and $50,000 for yet another performance bonus. Next, he was supposed to be in a title fight with Jose Aldo, however, Jose Aldo pulled out, so they had to create an interim belt where he fought Chad Mendes. Conor beat Chad Mendes and won the interim title handedly, and he ended up making $580,000, $500,000 just to show up, $50,000 for a performance bonus, and $30,000 for a Reebok sponsorship. And he ended up knocking out Jose Aldo in just 13 seconds with the fastest knockout in a title fight in UFC history. And Conor made about $590,000 from this fight. But then something crazy happened. You see, Conor was fighting at 145 pounds or featherweight and he was supposed to go up 10 pounds to fight the lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos. But RDA ended up pulling out of the fight and Nate Diaz said that he would fight McGregor at 170 and McGregor accepted. Even with going up 25 pounds in weight, Conor McGregor was still the heavy favorite and was supposed to win this fight. However, Nate Diaz ended up submitting him and Conor McGregor's mystique was now gone. McGregor still made over $1 million for this fight, $1 million just to show up, but the fight was so amazing that they had a rematch and McGregor ended up making over $3 million and he won the fight against Nate Diaz, getting his revenge. McGregor was still the featherweight champion at this time and he finally got his wish to fight for the lightweight belt. And the lead up to this fight against Eddie Alvarez was absolutely amazing. It was some of the best trash talk that we had seen from Conor McGregor to this point.
This guy TKOs people. When I knock people out, they don't fucking move. Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
I feel Eddie is easily hit. All you gotta do is look at his face. That boy is ugly.
Conor ended up beating Eddie Alvarez and became the first person to hold 2 belts at one time in UFC history. And for this fight, he ended up making over $3 million once again.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
After this fight, Conor McGregor was the most popular athlete in the world and he decided to cross over into boxing and fight Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather is considered the best boxer of our generation and maybe even of all time, so to do this was absolutely crazy. Conor did very well in the fight, but he ended up losing. However, he still made $30 million from this fight. So in just one fight, he made more than his entire career in the UFC. And with this newfound money, he started to get into a lot of business ventures, including making making a whiskey brand. His whiskey brand is called Proper 12, and he sold a majority stake for $600 million. However, he had partners, so he didn't get that full $600 million. He got a very fat chunk though. Once he was satisfied with his business ventures, he ended up fighting the current UFC lightweight champion a couple years later in 2018, Khabib. They had an absolutely epic lead up to this fight, and there was a lot of animosity, and Conor McGregor ended up losing in the 4th round, but still made over $3 million once again. There was a brawl after the fight, and Khabib and Conor McGregor didn't fight for a while after that. At this point, Conor had more money than he knew what to do with, but he still had a passion and love for fighting. He came back in 2020 to fight Donald Cerrone, and he ended up making another $3 million. And finally, he had another 2 fights against Dustin Poirier, in which case he made $5 million in both of those fights. So in total, Conor McGregor made $25 million from the UFC, $30 million from boxing, and about $150 million from other business ventures. So Conor McGregor's net worth currently sits at around $200 million, and that's how Conor McGregor went from Plumber making no money to a net worth of $200 million and being one of the most popular athletes in the world. Subscribe if you liked the video.